Good evening, students. In continuation with the yesterday's class on sampling method, today I would like to more focus on two important aspects or two important part of the sampling method, which is non-probability sampling non-probability sampling, and also I would like to focus on the unit of study or the unit of analysis. This is what I'll be more focusing on this particular class, and after this I'll be moving on to the data analysis, how to analyze the quantitative data. The first is that the non-probability sampling. Basically, the non-probability sampling is being employed in qualitative research. Qualitative research. That doesn't mean that the non-probability sampling is not applicable to the quantitative research. It also applicable in quantitative research, where we don't have enough idea or we don't have enough information on the samples. Limited set of information regarding the population, regarding the sample, and then regarding sample frame, as well as it is also the different set of informations which are required to pick up the given set of samples. Okay, so then we will be more focused on the non-probability sampling. So now, what are the different types of non-probability sampling? NPS is non-probability sampling. The first is convenience sampling. Convenience sampling. The second is quota sampling. The third one is purposive sampling. And the fourth one is snowball sampling. What is convenience sampling? The convenience sampling is also said to be accidental sampling. Accidental sampling, which means it depends on we are able to, as a researcher, we are able to pick up the respondents based on the availability of a particular respondent at a particular point of a time and space. So what decides the sample selection is that it's an availability of sample at particular time and space. This sample is much more a kind of spontaneous in nature, very spontaneous. So always the researcher decides actually the respondents based on the availability, whether they are willing to give the interview or not. So it depends on the respondents. Depends on the respondents whether they are willing to give interview or not. chance or merely by a randomness. This is by chance or a randomness. A very good example of inconvenience or accidental sampling is that you want to understand, for instance, the shopping behaviors. Okay, shopping behaviors in a supermarket. Okay, so you are able to pick up your respondents on the particular point of a time and a space, whomsoever is available. Maybe a kind of an women, or maybe a kind of a man, or it can be a kind of a boy or a girl. So you want to understand their behaviors of shopping. So this would be a kind of a more convenient, this would be a more appropriate to understand the particular studies like the shopping behaviors, or you want to understand that why certain people are buying certain particular product, why do they prefer certain products. So this would be a kind of an appropriate, the sampling, the convenient sampling would be appropriate for those kind of studies. Okay. The second one is on the quota sampling. The quota sampling is more a kind of an little quite different from the convenient sampling. This quota sampling is about a sample, the set of a sample represents certain characteristics. Okay, sample represents certain characteristics, and this characteristics becomes part of or the object of the study. The object of the study. Okay. Normally, for instance, suppose if you want to understand the adult education. So what you do here is that you want to look at the adult education from different set of characteristics point of view. For instance, the characteristics here, age would be one of the characteristic, or sex is another characteristics, or for instance employment, or for instance you can also look at the interest. What is the interest is all about. So after trying to look at these characteristics, what normally the researchers do is that they try to put these characteristics into different strata. They divide the strata. The first would be, for instance, it can be a kind of an sex, then the next is the age, what is the employment opportunity they do, and then what kind of an interest they are. What sort of an interest which influence them to go for an education at for instance after 40s or after 50s or after 60s. So this is something which is trying to, these kind of characteristics which influence the adult education. Okay, so what we do is that the quota sampling is about the sample represents a certain certain set of characteristics. The characteristics becomes crucial for the object of the study. For example, I would like to tell that the adult education, the focus of the adult education. When you are trying to focus on the adult education, then we are trying to look at what is the age, sex, employment, interest. So after trying to know that the characteristics of different set of characters which influence the adult education, then I create a kind of an hierarchy. Within the hierarchy, the first strata I would like to take it as a kind of a sex, which is more kind of a very general. So one is in terms of a male, and another one is in terms of a female. And then I move on to the next level, that age category. Then the age category, the further I divide into, for instance, the people, the respondents from 40 to 50. So or the 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and the 60 and above. So I am trying to look at the age-wise categorization. At the same time, I am also trying to look at the employments. For instance, those who are employed in the government sector, their interest might be different. Those people are employed in the private sector, their interest might be different. So what is influencing the interest is that the employment opportunities are trying to influence the interest. For instance, there are certain people who are working in the government sector, they might be very much interested to do a PhD. Okay, so when they are very much interested to do a PhD, then they will be more focusing on their the rest of the life or the future career or future plans. So might be a kind of an they couldn't do research at very young age, so that's maybe a kind of an influencing the particular persons to do carry forward research at the later stage of the life. So this is what more influence the adult education. Then I'll be like more focusing on for instance what is purposive sampling. Before looking at what is purposive sampling is that there are three general criteria one has to look at it. The first criteria is that first of all we are supposed to know that the knowledgeability of the person. Whether the person has required amount of knowledge in a certain specific topic. Or an area. The second one is that whether the knowledgeability represents wide point of view or range of point of views. Whether these knowledgeability which would give different set of point of view, different set of perspectives on the particular topic or an area. The third the criteria is that it is very simple, is that whether the person is willing to give the talk or not. Suppose if the person is not willing to talk, okay, then the entire purpose will be like the falsified. So what is the very intention of doing the purposive sampling is that it has certain specific reasons. It has certain specific reason or purpose. You will be able to collect those certain informations which are very specific in nature from particular respondents only. For instance, I have exactly used this purposive sampling in my PhD thesis. That falls on attempting to understand the innovations in solar photovoltaic technology in India. So for instance, I have tried to focus on what factors resisted the technology development in solar photovoltaic. Okay, so then after understanding, for that particular understanding, what I did was like I tried to pick up the scientist who specifically worked in the area of SPV. This is what, because my focus is completely on SPV, that's solar photovoltaic. Apart from this, I also try to check those scientists who also worked in solar thermal. solar thermal. Okay. This category of respondents have purposefully picked up for the study. Suppose I cannot discuss the same topic to some other scientist who is working in, for instance, who is working in some other area of research, or somebody who is working in, for instance, quantum physics, or someone who is working in some different areas. So I cannot discuss the specific topic with some other scientific, with some other scientist or with some other scientific community. So the purpose decides. What is your purpose? The purpose decides the sample selection. Then I move on to the fourth sampling. The fourth sampling is on snowball sampling. For instance, I've also employed the snowball sampling in my dissertation because when I started doing a kind of an interview, I didn't have any idea on any idea or any set of information regarding who is the scientist actually worked in the area of solar photovoltaic for the last, for instance, that 30 years, 40 years ago, because it's more kind of an historical research. My one was more an historical research. which would try to like explore the solar photovoltaic technology development from 1950s onwards. So I want to know, for instance, a certain senior scientist who worked in the area of solar photovoltaic. So what I did was that I tried to pick up or identify one individual, identifying one respondent, then asking the same respondent to identify another person. The same respondent to identify another respondent. So it's purely based on the relations and also the knowledge of knowing. So this sample is much more possible is that it's very hard to reach. So you're not able to reach a certain respondent. Okay, so very difficult to reach the respondent. So the possibility of reaching the respondent is very, very low. At the same time, very difficult to identify. Identification is also very, very difficult. So in that case, what you can do is that you can follow the snowball sampling. So the snowball sampling exactly helps the respondents to know certain respondents in a specific area or in a specific topic or in a specific region who is working on certain technology development. So this is what exactly I used in my, for instance, in my PhD thesis. Actually, if you look at the non-probability sampling, very from the outside of it is that who will be like more preferring to be following the non-probability sampling is that it is the people who work in the qualitative research than the researchers who work in the quantitative research. Okay, so for instance, the sociologist, most of the sociologists or kind of an anthropologist, they try to follow this NPS, non-probability sampling, than the probability sampling. For instance, when we discuss about the probability sampling, the probability sampling is it's full of a kind of an statistics. It's full of kind of an it is being fundamentally part of the statistical research. Okay, when it's being part of the statistical research, the researcher attempt to collect as much as possible information regarding the population, the total population. He will be having a kind of a list of the population in hand. Then after once he has or he or she has that the population list, and afterwards he will be like trying to look at the sample size or the subset of the population. Okay, this is the kind of one advantages which you will be able to see or compare between probability as well as the non-probability. Now, non-probability is one of the best convenience. Okay, so you don't need to kind of collect informations in a more kind of beforehand, and then after collecting those informations you do categorizations, and after categorizations you will be trying to look at the probability of which set of populations and which set of individuals I am supposed to interact. We are not going to follow all these rigorous methods and procedures. Rather, we directly go to the field and according to our convenience, the researcher's convenience, and we will be able to pick up the respondents. So this, I would say that if your research is qualitative in nature and following the non-probability sampling, which will give you as much as possible information. Suppose if it is your research is more on the quantitative in nature, then we would say that probability sampling, the method of following the sampling method of probability would be the best. Okay, so now I'll be moving on to that the next idea, that unit of the study. what is the unit of the study? What do we mean by unit of analysis? Analysis or the study. So here the term unit within the research, social science research, is that the unit is always refers to the collectivity. So the collectivity in terms of whether it is a micro, meso, macro level. So here the micro deals with individuals. Then the meso deals with different set of groups or multiple groups. The macro is the larger population. Larger populations. For instance, it can be at the level of the state, nation, even the district victims. Okay, so now we have to look at what is the unit of the study, what is the unit of analysis. The unit of analysis can be categorized at different levels. Whether the unit of analysis is at the national level or trying to look at the state level. Then we move on to the district level. Then district to taluk. Then village to the individual. Now, when you are collecting information, when you are collecting data about an individual, if the data is only with regard to individual, then my conclusion would also about the individual. For instance, by collecting individual information, I cannot generalize my data, I cannot conclude my data for the nation or for even for instance village or taluk or district or for the state. So what we are supposed to do, suppose if I want to represent the village level. So when it is at the village level, what I do is that I divide the village into multiple set of groups. Group 1 and then the group 2, group 3. I will be able to check this 1, 2, 3 different set of groups, whether these groups clearly represent the village or not. Okay, so for instance, I will be able to segregate the groups based on the income category or based on the caste or based on some sort of an ethnic backgrounds. I'll be able to divide this different set of groups, and I will be able to check, as a researcher we will be able to check that whether these groups represent the village or not. So suppose if these groups doesn't represent the village, that means it's more the individual data is all about. So you have to check that when you are at the village level, then whatever the informations you are trying to collect from the sample, it should represent the village level. Suppose if I am moving to, for instance, taluk. So the taluk is comprised of different villages, different set of villages. Taluk is nothing but a blocks. Okay, different set of villages within the one particular block. So that the data should represent different villages. Suppose if I am moving to the district level, and the district level which consists of different blocks, block 1, block 2, block 3. When I move from the district to the state, then the state comprises of different districts. And when I move to the nation comprises of different states and union territory. That means when you are representing the data at the national level, you should have enough data from different set of states, okay, and as well as the union territory. Otherwise, we are not able to tell that whatever the data which I have collected for the nation state level, it may or it may not be concluding it for the national level. Okay, so always you should remember that what is your unit of analysis by given this hierarchical order. Okay, so for instance, in your case, in all your projects, you are exactly looking at this village as well as individual. But most of the cases, what happens is that you are only trying to project the individual data. So that means your study eventually concludes about the individuals, not about the villages in most of the cases. Suppose if you want to represent the village, then you should also check that in terms of group-wise understanding, different set of group-wise understanding. Otherwise, it is mere all your projects only reflecting the individual point of view, not the village point of view. Okay, so this is, please keep this in mind. So what is the data? Suppose if I am collecting the data of an individual, then I have to conclude, my data concludes the individual point of view, not the village's point of view. So always keep this in mind that the unit of analysis of your study or unit of analysis directly refers to the point of collectivity. It's a kind of an aggregate. It's about the aggregate. Then you are trying to look at the aggregate in terms of an individuals, aggregate in terms of an groups, or aggregate in terms of the larger populations. Okay. So suppose if you are not able to look at the aggregate, your data is not able to project the aggregate's point of view. That means it's more a kind of a scatteredness. That means there is no representativeness of the information. So please check all these aspects when you are doing the analysis part. So you have to, in the analysis part, you have to clearly tell that the data, what kind of a data you have collected from or within the village. So who is the individual, who is the respondent? So you have to clearly explain the category of the respondent. Suppose if you are not able to explain the category of the respondents, and then we cannot infer, you cannot get a kind of an inferences out of your study. The inferences will also be like, the inferences give you a kind of an false indications. So in order to stop the false indications, so we will be exactly explaining who is the respondent, the nature of the respondent, and the categories all will be included in the explanations of the unit of analysis. Okay. So with this lecture, I am trying to conclude both the things. I'm clubbing this, both the unit, both the lectures. Sorry, not the unit, both the lectures. Sampling methods as well as trying to look at the explanations on the unit of analysis. From here, in the next lectures, I will be moving on to the analysis, the data analysis, how to analyze the quantitative data. Okay, that will be purely part of a kind of an statistics. Okay, I will be using the methods of statistics to tell you or to make you to explain that how to analyze the given data or how to analyze the data which we have collected from the field. Okay, thank you.